Dear students, good afternoon to all. And today we will deal with the module 10, session 64, symmetry in animals. The topic is symmetry in animals, and symmetry is usually defined as uh, repetition of the parts in an animal in an orderly fashion. Entire structure, which anatomically as well as morphologically, there will be division of the body into in equal parts in an order. So it is relative position on opposite sides of a dividing line are distributed around an imaginary axis. The axis is known as axis of symmetry. Animals can be classified by three types of body symmetry: radial symmetry, biradial symmetry, and asymmetry, which do not show any kind of orderly arrangement of organs. So animals are divided basically into radially symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical, and asymmetrical. Asymmetry means we can find in single celled animals do not have any kind of orderly arrangement of the organelles. So example is amoeba. So if you want to divide amoeba into equal parts, it is not exactly into two or three any kind of divisions. We cannot divide it into two equal kinds of cells because nucleus will be arranged in the center, and it is a single cell. If you divide, the amoeba will not exist at all. Spherical symmetry in certain or colonial protozoans, we find there is a kind of polarity of arrangement of structures or organelles. In spherical symmetry, the shape of the body is spherical and lack any of the axis. The body can be divided into two identical halves in any plane that runs through the organism's center. Here, polarity does not exist. We cannot find an anterior or posterior end or lateral sides. But this here we can divide the animal into two equal halves through any of the direction. So radiolarian protozoans show this kind of symmetry. Radial symmetry is radially symmetrical animals show radial symmetry. Example are like hydra, echinodermates, etc. So basically, the animal can be divided into equal halves along one of the radius, either any of the radius. So if you cut the along the radius, the animals will be having two equal halves. So here we find tetramerous, pentamerous, hexamerous, or octamerous or biradial symmetry. So tetramerous radial symmetry is observed in jellyfishes, which have four radial canals, and the body can be divided into four equal parts. Hence, the animal exhibits tetramerous symmetry. Pentamerous means echinoderms have five radiating arms and they have pentagonal shape. And hexamerous is observed in certain hexacoralia corals, which are coming under the phylum Coelenterata, where the sea anemones and true coral polyps can be divided along the mesenteries, and the tentacles will be found arranged around the central the oral disc, where we can divide the animal in six radii. Octamerous means octacorallian polyps can also be divided in 8 radii. We will get equal halves along 8 radii. So here we have the picture of hydra, which can be divided into two halves in by two radii, that is biradial symmetry, tetramerous symmetry, tetraradial symmetry, and octamedial uh, hexa and octa. So biradial symmetry is observed in comb jellies, where we find these ctenoporans can be divided into two equal halves. Bilateral symmetry is noted in higher organisms, where the multiploblastic animals, which can be divided into two equal halves with the imaginary axis, and these two halves either may be frontal, sagittal, or transverse. Bilateral symmetry allows for streamlined and directional motion. In evolutionary terms, this simple form of symmetry is promotes active mobility and increases sophistication of resource seeking and predator prey relationship. So here we have a chordate typically which can be divided into two equal halves, either dorsoventrally, anteroposteriorly, and transverse planes. So in any of the plane, if we cut the animal into two halves, it will, and other than the transverse plane, we can anterior dorsally or ventro dorsally. Anterior posterior axis can run from anterior to posterior side, dorsal to ventral side. So we get a transverse section, but there is arrangement of all the organs of the body into two sides, lateral sides, right and left. So that line which divides the animal is anterior posterior axis, or this can be seen in chordates. So bilateral symmetry is associated with the term cephalization, meaning the cephalization means anterior posterior body can be differentiated. Even in earthworms or such a lower invertebrates like arthropods and helminthic worms, we find bilateral symmetry. The here we one example we have given the fish. Other animals also show bilateral symmetry like annelids, platyhelminthes, ascaris, and arthropodans, and certain minor phyla, and all the chordates so show bilateral symmetry. And here at the end of the session we have certain questions. Repetition of the parts of an animal in an orderly fashion is known as symmetry. Echinoderms possess pentamerous radial symmetry. The animals is divided into roughly mirror image halves through one plane is bilateral symmetry. The specialization of anterior end of the body to form head is known as cephalization. These animals exhibit tetramerous radial symmetry. They are jellyfishes. So reference books are also given at the end of the session, and please go through the study material provided and also answer the MCQs at the end of the session, answer old question papers and get through the examination.